RIOT Platforms, are they a sleeping giant or over the hill? Let's see what conclusions we can make about this Bitcoin miner that used to be the largest of the public miners. Okay, so RIOT, this is their financial year 2023 update that they produced on February 27th, so it's about a month old now, but there's a lot of good information in here regardless. So currently their exahash is 12.4, which puts them in number 4 of the public miners. You've got Mara with the largest amount, Core Scientific after them with 18, and CleanSpark after them in number 3 with 16, and then after that you have RIOT with 12.4. They are planning to get to 31.5 by the end of 2024, which is a pretty good goal for them. Now, of course, that is going to put them in line with the likes of other miners. They're going to put them up there with Marathon, up there with CleanSpark, probably above Core Scientific, slightly above Bitfarms, a few others. So it's not a super competitive amount of exahash that they are getting, but it is nearly triple what they currently have. Triple, of course, would be 37 point something from where they currently are. So it's not quite that, but they will be mining by the end of 2024. They will be mining more Bitcoin than they were in 2023 per month. So that will be a very important data point there. Now, the next one that's super impressive, and this has actually kind of flipped the script for me on RIOT, is their average cost to mine a Bitcoin in 2023 was $7,539. The price of Bitcoin never went under, $20,000, I think, in 2023. So they've been making tons of money per Bitcoin. Now, of course, they're still unprofitable, and I assume that's because of large, large investments in capital, that they have been deploying in the form of Bitcoin miners and other such operating costs that they are focused on trying to improve and grow their business. So, with this said, 7,539, if they can keep up that efficiency going into 2024, their average cost of Bitcoin should be about just over $15,000 per Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's going to go under, $40,000, $50,000 again for a very long time, if ever. So if they can maintain that level of Bitcoin cost per Bitcoin produced, that would be absolutely insane and make them wildly profitable during the bull run. Now, of course, this is not financial advice nor a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. Please do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and eventually come to your own decisions about each of these investments. They are inherently risky. Don't invest in any of these without doing your own research. Anyways, 2.2 cents per kilowatt hour is their average cost. That's amazing. I'm going to show you a graphic here in a bit that's really, really impressive in relation to how impressive that that 2.2 cents is per kilowatt hour. Now, let's take a look here. First, I want to look at one thing down here, and that is the miners that they're purchasing. We'll take a look at all this other stuff later, but this is the miners that they're purchasing. Okay, microbit. They're going with micro BT miners. Their worst miner that they're going to be purchasing is the 60S with 186 terahash per second. Now, that's not even the largest allotment of miners that they are purchasing. And every other miner is significantly better than that one. Okay, so let's take a look at this graphic here. Now that you've got that in your brain, let's take a look at this graphic right here. I got this graphic here, as you can see, from Invest Answers. They have amazing data over there. I absolutely recommend watching that channel. I am not affiliated with them in any way, of course. I just really like the data that they produce, and I could not find a better table than this one, so I'm using it. Anyways, so the S21s, that's the best Bitcoin miner on this list. And that is the miner that a lot of their competitors will be purchasing when they're trying to purchase miners. You can see that CleanSpark is purchasing them. Not BitDigital, Bitfarms is purchasing them. I think BitDigital is actually getting the Pro Pluses. But come over here. So Bitfarms, they're purchasing S21s, 3,000 of them, but they're also purchasing T21s in the form of about 50,000 almost T21s and like 4,000 S21s. Now let's look at their efficiency. So the S21, this is the T21 actually. Okay, so they're buying a significant amount of T21s, which gets you 190 terahash, which is slightly better than the worst miner that Riot is purchasing going forward. And the S21s does 200 terahash. These are the ones that Bitfarms is purchasing, but that's also the miners that CleanSpark is purchasing, which is planning to try to compete with Mara, which is the biggest miner right now. So the S21s, that's the best one. It does 200 terahash per second. Nearly every one of these except the M60Ss are better than the T21s. So if we use that as the benchmark, so we're going to use the T21s as the benchmark, they are mining at 2.2 cents per kilowatt hour, Riot. Let's average that up to 3, just for argument's sake. It's slightly higher than 2. I know you need to go to 0.5 before rounding up, but in this case, I like to be conservative, so I'm going to round up in this situation. The S21, which if you remember, worse than nearly all of the miners that Riot is going to be, virtually all the miners Riot is going to be deploying going forward in 2024 and 2023, or 2025, excuse me. They need to mine at a rate of $15,376 in order to not stay profitable, but the price of Bitcoin would have to come down, would have to come down to $15,376 before Riot is losing money. And if you remember from their up here, the very top here, their current price is 7,000 average. 7,539. You double that, that's 15,070 something. That's lower than the cost of the break-even cost at 3 cents for the S21, which is the miner that the other that their competition is using. Or cost to mine is lower than their competitors. So if we come over here, 4 cents, about 3.9 cents is what Bitfarms, this is a Bitfarms, I'll go to the top here. This is a Bitfarms financial year. So in Paraguay, which is their new mining site, they are going to be getting about 4 cents, 3.9 cents per kilowatt hour. They're deploying T21s, which are slightly worse than the S21s. So at 4 cents, Bitcoin needs to stay above $20,500 for Bitfarms to keep the lights on in that respect. Okay? All right, so I just wanted to bring that up, that Riot has an amazing cost per kilowatt hour, an amazing cost per Bitcoin mined, and they are on path to increasing their exahash significantly. Now let's take a look at some of the other data here. So Riot, they produced 6,626 Bitcoin last year. They sold about 90% of it or so, with 6,185 sold. It left them with a treasury of 7,362. That is a significant treasury. It's not better than Mara's. It's not better than Hut's or Core Scientific's at this rate, but it is not bad at all. And this is going to become important after the halving. Right now, Bitcoin miners are not getting any of the benefit of having their treasuries. Not like MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is getting a huge benefit to its treasury, and that's because MicroStrategy faces no risk going into the halving. They just hold Bitcoin. They don't need to worry about how it's produced. They just hold it. So that anytime Bitcoin goes up, they go up, 3-4 times that. It comes down, but they go down 3-4 times that, because they are directly correlated to that Bitcoin right now. Whereas the miners have diverged because speculation says that investors are scared. They want to know which miners are going to survive and hopefully thrive after the halving. Once these companies get past the halving and they still have the lights on and hopefully earning at least a small profit, that's when these treasuries will start adding multipliers to the price action. And companies with zero HODL won't benefit from that money multiplier for having that treasury. So that's one reason I like purchasing Bitcoin miners that have a treasury, because once the halving is over, once they've proven that they're able to survive in that much more difficult environment, that's when that treasury becomes a multiplier on their price action, and you start seeing those big moves again, that investors are no longer scared and worried about their lights shutting off on them. So after the halving, Riot's going to benefit greatly from this as long as they continue to be profitable with how much Bitcoin that they are, how much it costs them to produce a Bitcoin. Now, that does, that will significantly increase. There is still risk here. Riot does need to deploy their plan of getting to this 31 exahash, which we'll look at down here. They want to get to 100 exahash, which is a lofty goal. It's about twice of what Mara and CleanSpark want to reach. Now, of course, there's no date underneath their plans for 100 exahash, so that's just some pie in the sky future thing that they haven't even really planned out for. It's just what they want to get to. So far, they've only planned to get to 40 by 2025, which will leave them lower, about 20% lower than CleanSpark and Mara, if CleanSpark and Mara can achieve their 50 exahash goals, which are to be at 50 exahash by the end of 2025. So they will be lagging behind their competitors there. For 2022 Q2, that's in a couple of weeks. They want to get to 21.4 exahash. That is not quite double their current exahash, so they will be mining less Bitcoin after the halving for a few months. Also, I don't know when this will come online. The sooner this comes online, the better. The later it comes online, the more this stock is going to suffer. Q3, they're going to get to 27. So that's more than double their exahash from last year. So they will be mining more Bitcoin than they were in 2023, starting Q3 2024, once they get all of this online. And again, if they get it done at the back end of Q3, then they're going to suffer until the back end of Q3 with lagging results and just not performing as well as their peers. 2024 now, Q4 2024, excuse me, Q4, end of the year, they want to be at 31.5. That would put them at a little over 2x, nearly 3x their current exahash. That would be fantastic for them, especially if they can keep their power costs down and they get these significantly more efficient miners with cheaper electricity. At that point, they're just printing money. So I'll be looking forward to this. If they can execute on this 31 exahash by the end of the year with those better miners, ooh, Riot's going to be looking real good at the end of the year. So let's take a look at their stock quote. So this is another thing that is really important with Riot right now. If we look at the book price to book right now, Riot's at 1.56. The average, according to Investopedia, is about 3. You want to see the average for price to book ratio to be about 3. Now, it can go significantly higher than that at times. And when it does, especially on the miners, I would start looking for a top at that point. But it's about 3. They're currently at 1.5, meaning their price to book ratio could double. So the price of their stock could double before they just have an average price to book ratio. So keep that in mind. Their current price is $11.60 according to their website here. So they could go up over $22 before they just have an average price to book ratio. Like, that's pretty insane, and leaves me believing that based on a price to book ratio perspective, they're currently undervalued right now. And they might, I mean, I think that they will continue to be for at least a few more months until after the halving is over. And they are surviving there, but I do see this price to book ratio. And if you compare it to one like Mara, which is their competitor, of course, price to book ratio for Mara is 3. It's right on. It's right on 3. CleanSpark, I think, is actually 4. If I go to CleanSpark real quick, give it a second to load. Yeah, they're at a 4. So that's they're below average compared to the average, as well as compared to their competitors on the price to book. And honestly, their price could potentially double just to catch up with their competitors. So that's something to keep in mind with Riot. And one of the things that makes me feel like they could potentially be a sleeping giant right now. They got a low price to book ratio. They got some excessively efficient miners coming in. They have some super cheap energy that they are getting. And once they get that all online, in line with their treasury that they have, I think that Riot could potentially put up a pretty good fight with Mara and CleanSpark or some price action in the future. And of course, this is not financial advice nor a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. Please do your own research before investing in any assets. This is just what I think when I look at this information. The other thing to look at with Riot is their SEC filings. They don't have any dilution on the horizon. Not any big dilution anyways. There's an S3 from 2019. In 2023, they've only been issuing S8s, which are filings to provide shares to employees as compensation. So if we put this in the middle of the screen here, Yeah, I don't know how much money they're looking to, additional 13 million shares. That's not very much. Right. So they want to have an additional 13 million shares this year to provide to employees as part of their benefits package. That's significantly smaller than their competitors. Let's take a look at their shares outstanding. So their current shares outstanding are 180 shares. Adding 13 million to that is peanuts. If you can see, they haven't really, so in 2023, yeah, they only increased 100 million or 10 million shares in 2023. Now, since 2021, they've gone up more than double, right? They've more than doubled their shares since 2021. But if you remember, CleanSpark more than tripled their shares. Marathon did a lot more as well. So they're not diluting as much as some of their competitors. They're buying better miners than their competitors. They're getting super cheap energy compared to their competitors, and their price to book value is significantly lower than their competitors. So RIOT is looking pretty good for the future based on those metrics. Now, of course, this completely depends on their ability to execute on their plans to increase their hash rate. That is super important. Let's take a look at their market cap real quick. They're at 2.94 billion. The highest they've ever been is 4.8. So they're a little more than halfway to their highest all-time market cap. Marathon, currently their market cap is 5 billion, 5.17 billion. So they got a ways to go to catch up with Mara. They're also behind CleanSpark right now in that respect. Yeah, they're also behind CleanSpark by a little more than $500 million. So that is something also to keep in mind. Their market cap is lower than their competitors right now as well, as an effect of that lagging aspect. I don't think that this one is over the hill. I think that RIOT might actually have quite the kick left in them coming into the back half of 2024. I'm not certain on that, of course, and of course, it's not financial advice. But when I look at the data, RIOT doesn't look bad at all. Now, you might be doing some waiting. It's going to take some patience, I think. I don't think RIOT's going to tomorrow just blast off. But once they start getting that exahash online and we see how much it costs RIOT to produce a Bitcoin after the halving, and if we see that it is significantly lower than that of Mara, than that of RIOT, or than that of RIOT, than that of CleanSpark, than that of Bitfarms, than that of some of their other competitors, I think RIOT might take off from there, and that's going to be a pretty exciting time in the chart for us. The other thing with the SEC filings I wanted to look at now, I know I'm bouncing around now. I'm sorry. Yeah, Section 16 forms. They did have some insider selling in February. That's so February 28th, just like with CleanSpark and Mara. Was Mara in on that? I can't remember, but just like with CleanSpark for sure. And they sold, was it 15,000 shares or was it 261,000 shares? I'm not sure. Where is it at? 15,000. Yeah, they sold 15,000 shares. They were one of their directors filed to sell 15,000 shares of RIOT on February 2024, and that's the only one they've got. Remember, if you looked at CleanSpark, there were like tons of them at that time. So RIOT on February 28th. Now we're looking at the chart. On February 27th, it had a down day. On the 28th, they filed, and since then it's just a big drop. Okay, so let's look at this chart now. We've got all that information. Let's look at this chart. We are on an ascending trend line that we have been meeting and bouncing off of repeatedly. We've met it once, twice, almost 3, 4, 5, 6 times. We've touched this 6 times and not broken it, which makes me a little bit nervous. I feel like if we hit it a 7th time, we might break through and come down to $8, but not what I'm thinking about. Overall, we are in a downward trend, much like IREN, where we're making higher or lower highs. We're making lower highs. We did make a slightly higher high here, though, so that's super promising, actually. But overall, the trend is, and if we look at the weekly, it probably will be lower highs, but we are also making higher lows, which puts us in a bit of a wedge. And you can see that wedge starting from this top here at $20.46 on July 17th, coming down and meeting with our ascending trend line over here, way out in the future in January 2025 at about 1480. Now, I don't think we'll get that low. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to stay in this wedge that long. That would be insane. That would be really, really disappointing, actually. I do think we'll probably come back to the top of this, and if we break out of this wedge, this wedge that we're forming here, we're probably going to go up real high. So I don't know. I haven't really looked at it. I haven't thought about it, but we're going to get back into the 20s once we break this ascending trend line here, or descending trend line. Stay above the ascending trend line. So right now, let's look. If this here, we made a new high. We made a slightly higher high. That's actually promising. Even though we had this big waterfall moment here, that's actually promising, especially since we came down here and made a higher low. If this higher low holds at $10.58, and we can get back above this bit of resistance here from 1196 up to 1320. If we can get through that above $13.20, we're looking at approaching this high of $18 again. That's super promising. I think that will happen after the halving. I think that will happen after we see if RIOT can be profitable after the halving, or at least keep the lights on after the halving, and they start benefiting from that big treasury once more, and they get those significantly more efficient miners than their competitors online, and keep their energy costs low. I think we're going to see that happen. Now, if this breaks here at 1058, if we get below 1058, we are going down to $10. $10 doesn't hold. That's where all this resistance is. If that doesn't hold, we're going to the bottom of that resistance, which is at 860. If for some reason that doesn't hold, the next one, $7. So 10, 860, $7. Those are that's the downward risk. The immediate downward risk is $10. $10 is a big psychological level, and I think that will hold pretty strong. That doesn't mean that it can't break. It definitely did back here last October, but it didn't get much lower. So 10 is a pretty high, significant psychological level that we need to stay above. And then I think we'll hold pretty strong. I think we'll hit it and stay flat if we get that low for a while. And if we break it, it's going to be pretty dramatic, probably coming down to that $7 level for a day or two before going back. So that's the downside risk. The upside potential is we need to get to $12. $12 is going to be a wall. Not a particularly strong wall, but it's going to be a wall that we need to get through. And we're going to fight all the way up to 1320. Once we get over 1320, then we have some clear skies up to like $15, $16, but we are at resistance, and we're also sitting at support. Like, we're in a pretty tight zone right now where price is fighting to go either direction. So we're just kind of waiting. I did pick up some calls on Thursday, the bottom of the market. I did pick up some calls. They're doing well already right now. I don't know what's going to happen on Monday. I am a little bit concerned about that now that I'm thinking about some of these other things and how it's probably going to suffer going into the halving. But we'll see. I bought them way out until 2026. I bought them out till 2026. So I have lots and lots of time to wait and watch price action do stuff here. Of course, not financial advice nor a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any assets whatsoever. It's just what I'm doing with my portfolio. RIOT currently has a lot of really positive things behind it right now. They do move a bit slower than their competitors. That could be their downfall. The biggest risk right now is, can they get those new machines in their warehouses and online fast enough to compete with their competitors, fast enough for the halving not to crush them and force them to either dilute heavily or sell a significant chunk of their Bitcoin. And if neither of those things become a major operating issue, I think I think RIOT has a really good shot at revisiting the highs from February and December and potentially taking them out and going for this July high that they still haven't reached again at 2060 this year. I see that, which would be about a double from where they currently are. I think that could happen. They might even be lucky enough to be able to triple it and take it out to about 30. Now, there'd be a lot of fight getting there because there's a lot of resistance here from 21 all the way up to 30. So they might get stuck in like the mid 20s, but mid 20s is a potential for this stock going into the end of the year, given a lot of the positive catalysts it has behind it. Now, it is slow. They move slower, they move more methodically. So there might be some more pain before they start making those types of moves, but if they're able to achieve it in terms of reaching the goals that they've set for themselves in their presentations and the things that they say that they're doing, and they get the energy at the cost that they've claimed that they have it, they're going to do well. So with that said, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a profitable day.